Yo guys, welcome back to another Danmachi Memoria Freese video. Okay, so it is the long awaited tier list update video. I am sorry it took so long, but what I'm planning on doing is basically doing one of these a month to just update all of the other tier lists that have, like, for all of the banners that have accumulated over that month, which is usually just like the one tail and like so 2 to 4 banners worth of units, or if there's a special event like the anime gushers and things like that, there may be more units. But so what I was going to do is I was just going to do an update video to the tier lists once a month now, seeing as the majority of the work is done and the tier lists are already printed. So we're doing another tier list. We're starting with dark, okay, because that was the most requested, but we're going to do all of the tier lists that require updating currently. That would be dark, wind and light. So to reiterate everything I've said in every previous tier list video so that people understand, even though I know people just skip to the end, because if I get any stupid questions about these tier lists that are answered in this video, I'm not answering. I'm sorry, I'm not replying to your comment. If you've asked me a question and it's in the video, it's at the beginning of the video, I'm not replying. You watch the damn video. Don't comment if you not watched the video. Like, that just makes no sense. Anyway, I try to remove as much bias as possible when scaling or measuring these tiers. How it works is we value damage over utility, utility over survivability. I do have an actual formula that I use for to add numerical values to things, to take out as much personal bias as possible, and simply lean into what the game promotes. Hence, survival being the least important because that doesn't score you the most. Utility promotes survivability anyway, so that comes over survivability, and then damage ultimately is what's going to score you the highest in pretty much everything. So damage, utility, survivability in that order of priority. These scalings and measurements are designed for modes other than war games. So I do take into consideration the viability and utilization of these units within Wargame, but they are not the priority. So if they're great in Wargame, they may not be great in 7th Zone, Record Buster, or even story modes, especially EX modes, right? Saying that, let's get into it. We're going to start with the Poison Queen herself. Let me just come over here and grab this. Now, I will say this. She doesn't provide much utility. She does have semi-decent damage, but the utility is non-existent. Like, physical resist debuff and pen rate debuff is what she provides. Poison resist debuffing is useless outside of Wargame. That is a massive negative for this unit. Now, although she is an up-to-date unit, which means her stats are relatively high. Well, I say relatively. They're good for how or what they're supposed to be at the minute. Is if the way this game works, the level of power creeps and the consistent power creeps means that they keep having to upgrade and increase the base or the average level of what the stats are supposed to be, which means these units, regardless of utility or anything, have good stats. But she is, in my opinion, bad. She is a bad unit. Even with the self buff of 70% strength, I don't recommend using her. The only thing that she has going for her is the pen rate and physical resist debuff, but within the scaling or measurements of like what is more valuable than what else, elemental debuffs are rated higher than typing debuff for me. So it'd be element and then strength or magic, you know, and that's how the scalings have been, and there's a reason for it. Obviously, I'm not going to go into detail as to why, because then I give away how I come up with these tier lists, but ultimately, you can feel free to disagree with me. Your opinion is your opinion. You're entitled to it. Stay respectful. If you're not respectful, I will check you. But I have to, and I know this is probably going to bite me in the butt. Everything points to her being C tier. And that is a shocker. Super shocker, right? And I know that's probably not what you want to hear, but given that a lot of you new players probably did summon for her, or summoned and got her, but she will carry you through mediocre content. But when it comes to Record Buster outside and 7th zones, now 7th zone is increasing in difficulty. A lot of people have been telling me. I've noticed Some of my teams are starting to fall off slightly, which means they need updating, which means the difficulty probably is being shadow buffed in some way or another. And she just isn't viable outside of Wargame. Even in Wargame, I don't see a need for her unless you are really... Now, the thing is, she is good in Wargame, but she fits a huge niche. There are not many people that can put together a successful ailment team. And even then, if you can put together a successful ailment team, it doesn't mean it's a good team. Like, let me just throw that out there. Just because you can put an ailment team doesn't mean your team's good. You could probably still get wiped by a magic light nuke team. Like, it doesn't change the fact that you can still get your ass slapped. Anyway, I'm gonna move on to Argana now. I'm gonna discuss her skills. Again, she is recently released, so her stats are going to be of what you expect stats to be based on the power creep nature of this game. She has good stats. She also has more utility than her counterpart here, which means instantly she is more viable and valuable outside of Wargame. Instantly pushes her ranking up higher. Alright, on top of that, she actually does have great team support in terms of her buffs and debuffs. Now, lowering, okay, so self SA, I would usually put it on the screen, but I don't want to set up my capture card. I'm feeling really lazy, and this is going to take long enough as it is. So, SA buffs her own strength and dark damage by 80%, which is crazy. And then damage received to the enemy from AoE and single target is increased by 50% for 3 turns. That's crazy. But given that her buffs and utility are more leaning towards self-buffing or defense buffing. Defense buffs, like I said, survivability ranks on the lower end of the scale for these tier lists. So given that she prioritizes survivability over team utility in terms of damage, sort of brings her back down a little bit. Even though she is going to do a lot of damage herself, she's not utilizing anything to be able to bring the rest of the team up. That's the problem here. So in saying that, this is where I'm comfortable putting her. You will find a copy of this dark tier list in my Discord, link in the description, and we're going to move on to the next tier list. Okay, so we have the win tier list now. Now, straight off the bat, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Fear. Okay, so we're going to go over her skills. Like I said, her stats for relatively recent units do not need to be compared right now, as they are going to be good. They just came out. Of course, their stats are going to be good to some degree. AoE SA that lowers wind resistance by 60%. Before she came out, the highest resistance debuff was 50, which was the anniversary kid eyes. So to be power creep like that so heavily so quickly is bloody ridiculous. But it is 1 turn, so you do need to extend it. Brings the value down a little bit. It requires you to either run OG Harahime or Ray. Allies slow, magic and agility plus 30%. Remove strength and magic debuffs. I don't mind that. It's good for 7th zone. I do the same thing on my 7th zone teams for dark. I run armored to remove the strength and magic debuffs so that my Otal can just put out 100% damage at all times. And then she has wind resist and magic resist minus 30%. So we have better. We have better utility within the wind pool now. Even for AoE, and then single target has no exceptional modifiers. So for me, the SA alone will push her to B tier. That's it. This is her rank. This is what the scores said when I tallied it all. She is B tier. I'll tell you right now, I know this is off-putting because I'm basically looking at my phone while I'm doing this, but I can tell you immediately, everything that Ray does puts her here. Let me bring this up. Ray is an A tier. The reason she's not an S tier is because the utility she brings in terms of survivability is regen and not healing, which means it's a lesser degree of survivability, and survivability is already lower on the list anyway. But extending buffs and debuffs, yes. Increasing SA damage, yes. Increasing element type damage with SA, yes. So much utility. Her damage, not so great, but definitely A tier worthy. Now, I don't even really need to go into detail as to why. You should already know, but Harahime is definitely S tier. So much utility, so much damage. And essentially there is, I'm gonna go over like why. So single target means that she has a higher damage modifier anyway, so even it does relegate her to only single target areas like bosses, 7th zone single target or record buster. But what she does, she's bloody good at, and that's the point. She's self-sufficient to a astounding degree. She buffs her own element and typing, debuffs her own, debuffs the enemy's wind resistance and her typing, as well as increases single target damage as well. So a mad amount of utility followed by an exceptional amount of damage. She's definitely up there with the Child Eyes, if not better. The only difference being that she doesn't gain additional actions. So big so here. The mechanic followed on her skill 3 that requires her to have less MP to do more damage. I haven't tested it out yet, but so far what I've seen, it's kind of negligible. It's not actually that much of a factor for me, you know. But if you've had different experiences, please let me know how that's gone for you. Saying that, we can move on to the final tier list. So this video doesn't have to be that long. The light tier list. Now we just got the Fells, and I'm telling you right now, I'll go over what he does, and people are not going to like this. People are not going to like this, but I don't care because this is my opinion. His SA of buffing strength and magic by 80% is great. Having a 50% chance to revive your entire team sounds fantastic. But what you need to keep in mind is when you come back, you only have half health and you have no adventurer buffs. So any sack units you used to apply buffs, you won't get them back. Not fantastic. You shouldn't be... I feel like revival is a crutch and you shouldn't rely on it because it sets you back more than it helps you. You should be trying to survive in the first place, gaining enough utility to put out the most amount of damage you can and not dying to come back to... Like, unless you have a meticulous plan, like, I know I'll die here intentionally and then come back and I'll be able to do this. Like, I doubt that right now. The game is not set to support that kind of strategy. So, saying that, his SA isn't as great as you would think it is. The 80% buff for strength and magic already existed in the game. The rest of his kit is just survivability and defensive utility. And those on this scaling, on these measurements for these specific tier lists, are not valued that highly. Having a high heal on his skills, so he buffs all element resistance by 25% and provides a 35% HP regen. Fine, fantastic. Everyone's going to survive. Increases strength, magic, crit, and pen rate by 35%. Also applies a 30% heal. 30% 2 heals, which is already has a higher modifier on this skill for healing anyway, so he's going to heal a lot, a damn lot. But that's all he's going to do. And then finally, skill 3, he has a super modifier, but I don't see him doing much damage anyway. There are no modifiers here beyond strength magic, no element type modifiers or debuffs or anything like that. But the ailment cure, yeah, I'm cool. But the fact that he has so much utility can't be ignored, and this is where I'm placing him, right here. Let me just scroll up so you can see the whole tier list now. Okay, that is the tier list update. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, neither here nor there, these are opinions. Feel free to comment down below if you do disagree, or if you had other opinions, or you feel like sharing your opinions with me in a polite and respectful manner. If I do not get polite and respectful, you do not get polite and respectful. Just keep that in mind. Anyway guys, that is going to be the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure to drop a like if you did. Subscribe if you're not. Social media links will be in the description. And as always guys, I love you and I'll catch you later.
ポイント